This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
Welcome back to I Want That Too, the podcast where Disney merch meets Disney history. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and as always, I'm joined by the now ever festive Lauren Hersey.
Thanks, Jim. Festive? Really?
Hey.
I mean, that's a new one, I guess. I guess you're not wrong. I have been decking the halls over here like it has been my full-time job 4 weeks. And speaking of being festive, in my house, even though we have been fully decorated since November 2nd, yes, that is the earliest we've ever decorated. But the real official kickoff to the holidays is when Disney Plus launches their holiday section of movies. And from then on, like we're watching something every day. So I mean, have you been on Disney Plus at all? Like scrolling through there?
Just there today, and in fact, out ahead of prepping for the show, and I was kind of fascinated as to what's there as opposed to what Disney will be showing, for example, on Freeform or on ABC this year.
Yeah, did you notice any like differences or pretty much the standard stuff?
Well, what's kind of interesting is, for example, in fact, we will be talking briefly about this today. For example, Mickey's Christmas Carol, which again had been a holiday standard on ABC and Freeform, not there this year. I mean, mind you, it's available at Disney Plus, along with a lot of the classic Disney things, that you associate with Christmas. But yeah, kind of intrigued as to what wound up where.
And it's never too late. They always kind of continue to add things. Like when I worked in TV, it was sometimes, right before the beginning of December to get the full holiday lineup. So, let's not panic just yet.
No,
But
no doubt, no doubt.
Still could be coming, but like movies like Mickey's Christmas Carol, like they were fan favorites in my household growing up. And like that was, even then we weren't waiting for Disney Plus's holiday section. It was more like we had to record those classics off of the TV onto VHS tapes. Like I think Eric still has them. He's a little bit of a hoarder.
Oh, no, I'm your husband and I are cut of the same cloth. In fact, it's so sad. I can turn around now and I can see we have a wall behind the flat screen here at our house of old VHS tapes, the official Disney VHS tapes. Mind you, we have no machine in the house that can possibly play these tapes. And of course I have every single one of those same titles on both DVD and Blu-ray because I'm an idiot.
Hey, some of those go for big bucks on eBay, so don't pitch them just yet.
I know, but it's just sort of like, it just reminds me of, I had this conversation with Becky Klein at the Disney Archive, and she, in fact, the one thing about her that made me feel good is Becky's in the same situation. She has all of the stuff that, it's like, I don't know if I have anything that can play it. I've got it, here in the archive if anybody wants it. But I don't think that we have a machine in the building can actually play that anymore. So
no, but I mean, it's just the feeling, right, of hanging on to it, But back then, when I was growing up, the Disney holiday shows and movies seemed to be a little bit more original. I don't know. Sorry if that's offending anybody, but over the years, have you noticed that it feels like Disney is starting to make holiday specials for almost like all of their popular movies. Like, I think on the last show, we talked about the success of The Rise of Red and how there's now this new, like, Christmas music video, like, put more red in Christmas. Or, like, my personal favorite is Olaf's Frozen Adventure. I mean, like, I will take that all day long. And I mean, like, some of them even turn into full-blown franchises. Like, are you noticing that too?
Oh, yes. But that, again, that is the gift of the Disney company, that they know how to, once they get a hit, they know how to turn that from a one-off into a full-fledged franchise. And in fact, we're going to be talking a little bit about that very same thing with today's feature, shining a spotlight on my favorite recent Disney holiday special and the prep and landing shows.
Ooh, can't wait to hear about that. But it's not just about the movies. I feel like Disney has also kind of mastered the art of collaborations, like taking something that's already really successful, partnering with them, and like leveling it up.
No, you're not wrong, Lauren. But before we dive into Disney's collabs, we of course have to highlight the show's collaboration. Our sponsor. So a big thanks to Touring Plans for supporting I Want That Too. And whether you're planning your first visit to a Disney park or if you're a seasoned pro, Touring Plans has got you covered. From personalized touring plans to real-time wait times and insider tips, they will help you make the most of your Disney vacation. Plus, they got the tools to save you time and money, making sure that every minute of your trip is magical. So please make sure you check them out at touringplans.com.
Yes, please do. And back to collaborations, because I feel like we've got to talk about this. Like, it just seems like Disney is teaming up with everyone these days. If there's something successful, it's like they went in on the action.
Well, I mean, but again, this isn't exactly new territory for Disney. I mean, we were just talking a few shows back about, 90 years they've been working with Macy's. I mean, that's not a team up. That's an institution at this point.
It really is. I mean, like, wrapping my mind around 90 years, it's crazy. Like, that partnership started before both of us were even a thought.
There we go.
But, honestly, Disney, they've just had this way of making these collaborations, like, feel natural and seamless. Like, they don't seem forced to me, if you know what I'm talking about.
Well, no, you're not wrong. I mean, and again, Disney has been playing this game forever. So collaborations like this have been part of their DNA since the very beginning. Take Disneyland, for example. Walt didn't just, I know they show him pixie dust, and it's like, no, pixie dust in a dream. It's like, he had to send his brother to New York to meet with corporations to chase down funding for this park. And then, if you look at the park in its opening year, especially Tomorrowland, oh my God, how many corporations are in there? I mean, Monsanto, and then some of them are just crazy.
Like the world was, what is it about the bras?
Oh, well, the Hollywood Maxwell's The Wizard of Bras show. Yes, that or my personal favorite, the Crane Bathroom of the Future. Sponsored by
all right, they don't get them all right.
But again, they needed the money. They collaborated, but also let's remember that Disney's relationship with ABC actually started out because they went to them for the seed money to build Disneyland, and what came out of that, of course, was the very first Disney Weekly TV series.
That is true, and I mean that is a strategic partnership if there ever was one.
Well, now, where this gets interesting is the terms. And the idea was that if ABC would agree to invest in Disneyland, that they'd make a $500,000 cash payment. So Walt would have that immediately, and then they would guarantee $4.5 million in loans. So effectively, you agree to do a TV series for us, we'll get you $5 million to build your park. Now, mind you, ABC then became a one-third owner of Disneyland. And TV series launches in the fall of '54. And the beauty part of this is Walt is actually able to use the TV series to get America excited about the thing he's building. In fact, they would actually show film chunks of, here we are building the Jungle Cruise, and here we are, building Fantasyland and Frontierland. And so by July 17th, 1955, Walt actually gets ABC to agree to do a 90-minute long live special of the grand opening party, and just gets the whole world going, oh, I want to go there. So, I mean, come on, that's a win-win.
I mean, it certainly feels like a win-win to me. But I mean, like Disney collaborations, they go far beyond the parks, like we were saying about Macy's in 90 years. And I mean, they're playing a massive, massive role in retail. And, of course, I had to dive into it because it's the holidays.
Well, okay. So, what collaborations are you most excited about for the 2024 holiday season?
All right. Well, obviously Cakeworthy, but we've talked all about Cakeworthy. If you haven't, listened to that episode, go back. We had Brandon, the CEO, on maybe a month or so ago. But they've got not only one but two new lines coming into Disney parks soon. So I am here for it, and I will let you know here in a week or so while I'm down there if I see anything. Plus, Lainey, my daughter, is currently obsessed with Harry Styles. And Disney, there's a Disney and Pleasing collab, which is a pretty huge hit in our house at the moment.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Didn't they just do a pop-up at Disney Springs recently?
They did. You have a really good memory. So that was back in September, and it ended at the end of October. But they did do the pop up in Disney Springs, and it was just there to promote the new collaboration and the collection, which features all the Fantasia inspired designs. But even though that experience is over, you can still shop some items from that collection on the Disney store, and they have some really cool stuff. I mean, they have things from like, by the way, Pleasing is Harry Styles' like lifestyle brand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they have like nail polishes. They seem like they're pushing pretty hard. They have like nail and hand balms, and they have some apparel. And right now, I think you said today's the 24th. It's Schmur's Day. They all run together. But right now there's a deal where you can get free hand lotion if you purchase one of their nail polish sets. So it's definitely worth checking out if you're into that like unique, stylish, trendy Disney merch.
Okay. Cool. What else we got?
Well, for the ladies, I feel like I have to mention that Disney has partnerships with Kate Spade, Coach, Vera Bradley, and there will be tons of sales between now and Christmas, and like Disney they have their name and their brand on everything. Like if you want shoes, there's Adidas, Vans, there's Aldo. And I mean, if you're like into like more like a bougie, like luxury items, there's literally a collab with Gucci, Jim. Gucci and Disney.
Okay.
Like, what's next? Like, Louis Vuitton? Like, I mean, I don't know. They might have one. Who knows? But there's actually one of my personal favorites right now, and I feel like you're going to be jazzed about this, is on the Disney store, there's a Lionel train set that is blue, and it is covered in Frozen graphics. So, like, specifically, our buddies Olaf and Sven, like, I am obsessed. Like, love this. Did you see this?
Not yet. This is Disney Store that's got this. Okay.
It just came out. I believe, last week. Limited edition. It is $479.99, and at that price, I told you guys about Rakuten a couple weeks ago. Like, you get cash back. You might want to check that out. Like, After our last show, I did a massive Disney store order. Sorry,
Hmm.
Eric. But they were having like a special through there that like I got 20% cash back on my entire order. So now I'm just waiting for that to arrive. So, pro tip for you.
Yeah, Nancy actually bought in the very same window. In fact,
Yes.
I was stunned at how quickly, I want to say within 24 hours her ordering it was at the house. But anyway, to get back to Gucci and the like, that's actually some very serious variety there. Luxury brands, also practical favorites. But again, it's like Disney's got the waterfront covered. But that Frozen train set, wow. Well, obviously for the serious train collector in the family, but again, a great call on Rakuten. That 20% back these days, no joke.
I mean, like, listen, every buck counts,
Hmm.
and so Disney has all of their bases covered from merch. I mean, it sounds like there is kind of, I hate the cliche, like something for everything, but I mean,
Hmm.
it does feel like they have a lot of their bases covered. And if they get into situations where they
Hmm.
can't just say, we're Disney and we would like to partner with you, Mr. Brand,
Hmm.
what's Disney do? They create their own version.
Yeah, yeah, that they do. Okay, so which one are we talking about now?
Well, let me tell you, we just have to tell you what's happening in my house, and that's what
Hmm.
inspired this, a part of the show. So
Hmm.
my son Miles, who's 7, he is currently obsessed with Pokemon, just like every other first grader in the universe. Jim, what do you know about Pokemon? Do you know anything?
I oh God. Okay. Um I- when my ex and I divorced back in the late 90s, my she took my daughter home to Japan, which was her right.
Yes.
But I then had to have a long distance relationship with my daughter who was obsessed with Pokemon. So what I did, Lauren, is I studied Pokemon like it was the periodic table. All right, so I could talk with my daughter every night about it. So, for example, I knew that Charmander turned into Charizard, and I mean, I knew all of the forms, and that was the language that allowed me to remain connected with my daughter while she was in Honolulu. So
Wow.
no, Pokemon, big part of my life. Now, mind you, thank goodness that faded, and Michelle and Alice moved stateside, and I wasn't dealing with a 6 hour time difference. I was dealing with 3 hour time difference, and it all ended happily. But
Well,
Pokemon
you were a
was my
good,
life.
good dad
Well,
for
but
that.
it was a life. It was my literally my lifeline with my daughter. That she liked the cards. I would send her packets of cards, and we would talk about it. I would sit there with with my charts. It's like, oh, really?
Well,
Bulbasaur. Yes, of course.
that's so awesome. That's so awesome. And if you ever want to earn brownie points with
Mhm.
Miles next time we're together,
Mhm.
drop your Charizard knowledge and he'll be all
Okay.
about it. But so
Okay.
we are currently obsessed. This
Mhm.
has been about a year of obsession. More
Okay.
the collector aspect than actually like playing with the game. But recently, my equally Disney obsessed boss, Dean, introduced him to something brand new, and that is the Disney Lorcana cards. Are you
Oh, okay.
familiar?
Well, no, I mean, remember, you and I were out at the
Oh,
D23
yes, yes,
Expo together, and
yes,
Disney Lorcana, ooh, that was a big thing out there. People, didn't they have exclusive cards at the venue? Or,
yes, yes.
yeah, no, and people waited in long lines to get these things. So, again, their new trading card game, right?
Yes, they are. They are. So, if you're not familiar, I think Jim and I got a little bit of a lesson while we were, out in D23.
There we
But
go.
they're in the same, ballpark as Pokemon. They are both collectible card games, but instead of like Pikachu and Charizard, you've got like Elsa casting spells, like
Hmm.
Stitch wreaking some type of havoc, or like Captain Hook, leading some type of attack with his hook arm. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But the collectible card game, it was created by Ravensburger in collaboration with Disney, and it's not brand new. I mean, that was back in
Yeah.
2023, so
Yeah, just a year or
still
so ago. Mm-hmm.
relatively new. So this game's a little bit different, though. It combines strategy and storytelling, and I'm gonna try to not butcher this, but so the game has the Disney characters, and they're reimagined as glimmers, and they're in a magical world, and it's called the Great Illuminary. And players, they take on the role of, get this, Jim, they're called Lumineers, which is very fun.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're like wielders of the magical ink to summon Disney characters to a battlefield to gather what is lore, and that is how you ultimately win the game. But you can't just start randomly like you get like a Candyland board to play. You have to have like 60 cards.
Right.
Then players, they cast the characters, they get items, and then, they're spending ink, which is the resource generated by inking cards, I guess from their hand. I don't know. But the player to get 20 lore
Mm-hmm.
wins. I'm very sorry if I butchered that. This is now Miles' hobby. He sat for 8 hours yesterday, like organizing his cards. So this is his hobby, not mine. Apologize in advance if I didn't get that right.
Okay, so again, Disney's answer to Pokemon, but you've checked out the cards, right? While Miles is sitting there organizing and that sort of thing. I mean, they're really beautiful, aren't they?
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm so glad that you brought that up. I mean, like, listen, Pokemon cards are fine. They're literally in every nook and cranny of my house.
Mm-hmm.
But these cards are really beautiful and, like, certainly a collector's item for all ages.
Got it. Okay, so getting the cards, that's easy, yes?
Well, I mean, not exactly.
Okay.
It kind of depends on what you're looking for. So, Dean, my boss, is giving me a little bit of a education here. So, I mean, I guess that if you're looking for specific cards, it can be a challenge, and some of them are quite expensive, like going for big bucks on eBay if you're just trying to complete your collection.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just want to get started, like there's starter sets. I saw one at Target today, and it kind of
Mm-hmm.
teaches you how to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it was a Black Friday deal, but it was $12.50, which is a very, very, very good deal. And then
Yeah.
what you see everywhere, just like Pokemon, are the like booster packs. You get them for like $5 or $6, but in all the holiday catalogs, I mean, they were front and center. So if there's something that like you want to get your hands on, specifically, again, probably better to not like wait too long for that.
Well, okay. So I thank you for, I guess this is, again, I will be fascinated to hear Miles going further into this. But I guess this is looking the shape up to be one of the sleeper hits of the holiday season, right?
I don't know. I would think so. I mean, Lainey said today Miles might be the trendsetter, like bringing it to the first grade. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
see. I'm imagining that we might just, if Miles is on the good list, have a full blown Pokemon versus Lorcana battle. Here at the Hersey house on Christmas morning. We keep it interesting, that's for sure. So, I mean, on that note, stick around because after the break, like Jim hinted to earlier, he's going to be talking about one of his holiday favorites, which is prep and landing. So, stick around.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
we're back, and okay, Lauren, let's talk about Disney holiday specials. But again, I'll put a focus here on how they got started in this business. Because face it, that there have been some wonderful, like the new Pie-Eyed Mickey that Disney's been doing. There've been a couple of wonderful holiday specials that they've done with that version of the character. And you were just mentioning Olaf's Frozen Adventure, which, by the way, that was directed by Kevin Dieters and Stevie Wormer Kelton. And those two were the two very talented folks who did both of the first Prep and Landing shows. But as to how they got the opportunity to do that gig, well, all right, we kind of have to take a jump back to 1978. When Disney did Small One. Did you ever get to see that? The holidays.
I don't think I have, Jim.
Okay. There's probably a reason for that. This was a featurette that, well, first of all, was directed by Don Bluth, and the Disney company these days doesn't necessarily like to admit that. Don't get me wrong. You go to Disney Plus. And Anastasia, which is, a film that Don Bluth directed and made for 20th Century Animation. I mean, that's right in there with the other Disney princesses. But Don Bluth walked away from the Disney company. In fact, that was 79 or thereabout, I want to say. And he took a quarter of the Disney animation staff with him. Which really put a kink in Disney's plans for, at that point, they were really ramping up animation. But prior to that, he had directed this animated featurette called The Small One, which basically was about, you find out in the last 2 minutes of this featurette that the small one is actually the donkey that takes Joseph and Mary to Bethlehem. Where, of course, Jesus is born in a manger but that was the thing. It was a touch religious for the Disney company. And they couldn't quite, it didn't do as well in theaters as they'd hoped it did or it would. And when they offered it to television, I want to say NBC ran it for a couple of years, and it's like, that's nice. We don't want to run that again. But a couple of years later, of course, they did Mickey's Christmas Carol. Again, also a featurette for theatrical release. But that one, on the other hand, when they offered it to television, the networks were, yes, please, absolutely.
Heck yes.
that we love that. Let's do that. But then, of course, 1983 is the year before 1984, and that's when Disney management changes and Michael Eisner is in charge. And, it's not that Michael doesn't necessarily like Christmas-related stories, because remember, during that same time, that's when Disney did the Santa Claus movies and, things like One Magic Christmas and that sort of thing. But it wasn't necessarily a top priority of Disney's. Now, if we jump ahead to January of 2006, this is when Bob Iger spends $7.4 billion to acquire Pixar Animation Studios, and thus ending the feud between the two companies. And what's kind of interesting is during that same window of time, you have John Lasseter becomes the head of creative both for Pixar Animation as well as Disney. And he's looking to get the company back into hand-drawn animation. And so he tells the employees there, all right, we're open for all ideas. And before we get started here on a full-blown hand-drawn film, well, let's do a couple of shorts. And does anybody have any ideas for shorts? And Chris Williams comes forward. And Chris Williams says, I've had this idea for a story for a while now about, think about it, Santa Claus goes around the world in a night and delivers toys to all the children of the world. And how is that possible? There has to be an advance team. There has to be somebody who gets in there ahead of Santa and makes sure that the chimney's clear and, the vicious dog is taken care of and all of that. And so Chris proposed, I want to do this as a short. And John Lasseter, to his credit, looks at that idea and it's like, that is too good for a 7-minute long short. That should be a holiday special. But the interesting thing is that because Chris had come forward and had this idea and he was having conversations with John Lasseter, around this same time, Chris Sanders, who, remember, had directed Lilo and Stitch with Dean Dubois for Disney. And he was working on a project called American Dog at that point, which John Lasseter just did not like. It was too quirky for him. He couldn't get behind the idea. And so at one point, John just said, Chris, thank you for your efforts. You're no longer employed by the Disney company.
Because I'm an American dog?
Well, but here's the thing. They had done all of this work on American Dog. And so John, who'd been meeting with Chris and really liked his holiday, again, his elf idea that he proposes short and John wanted to turn into a holiday special. Suddenly he's like, oh, I just let Chris Sanders go. Would you like to take American Dog and direct it? Which then became Disney's Bolt. All right, but now Chris is busy effectively taking American Dog and turning into Bolt. And here's this idea that John Lasseter is really excited about. And more to the point, ABC is really excited about because in 2007, they had run Shrek the Halls. And it had done tremendous business, great ratings. And so they're like, ooh, we'd like another one of those. And so they put out word to all the animation studios in town that, hey, we're in the market for a new holiday special. So if anybody's got an idea. And so John's like, cool, they are looking for a special. We have an idea. Let's go. So again, this is where Kevin Dieter and Stevie Wormer-Skelton entered the picture, and the whole notion of is developing the world of prep and landing. These guys who go out and do this work for Santa, and what's so much fun. I mean, you've seen this, right? You've seen this.
Oh yeah.
Okay. What I loved about prep and landing is its economy. I mean, again, it's only a half hour long, but it so beautifully sketches out the story of Wayne, who's worked for Prep and Landing for 227 years. And he's the best at his job. But again, after 227 years, he's kind of going through the motions. And he's anxious to move up in the organization. And he's been offered the opportunity to head the naughty list. And he's so excited, he's going to be in charge of the coal elves. And he thinks he's got it aced, and he goes into work the day that, they're going to announce the promotion. And his boss, McGee, has to let him know that, well, we gave it to your partner. And by the way, you now have to go out and still do your job. And we've got your trainee, Lanny, who was the head of Kringle Academy. But before they go to commercial, they show Lanny can't even get the door open to McGee's office. And, and kind of an aside to Wayne, she's like, yes, he was at the head of the top of his class, but it was a very small class. And from there, I mean, you get to see how they get out ahead of there. And, for example, you get to see the transports. Santa has his reindeer, but, Dancer, Prancer, and the like. But taking the Prep and Landings elves out ahead is Prancer's extremely tough cousin, Thrasher. I won't spoil it for you because it's a beautifully done special, but all of the details are in point. It's wonderfully written. It's very smart. It's just this beautifully told story in 24 minutes.
When I think about it, though, I think of Hollywood studios like Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam, and like
Well,
I think last year it was like big drama because I think they were trying to just show it at like Jollywood Nights.
yeah. Now, that we were just talking earlier in the show about Disney taking a hit and turning it into something of size, and that's what they actually did with Prep and Landing. I mean, it airs for the first time on December 8th, 2009. And people just love it. So Disney immediately puts a sequel in the works. Now, mind you, to even get 24 minutes worth of animation up and running again, that's a full year and a half worth of work. So what Disney decides to do while they're prepping a second Prep and Landing, they circle back to Chris Williams' idea. They do a 7-minute long short called Operation Secret Santa. And what's kind of fun about that is they actually got Betty White to come and do the voice of Mrs. Santa Claus. It's all about how Mrs. Santa Claus persuades Wayne and Lanny that they have to, this time they're breaking into Santa's office, and he cannot know because she's planning a surprise for Santa for Christmas. But it's a wonderful 7-minute long short, and that debuts December 7th, 2010, and then in the following year, on December 5th, 2011, we get Prep and Landing Naughty versus Nice. Though for this one, this is when we start to see the Prep and Landing merch, Lauren. And
That's what we're here for, Jim.
well, that's it exactly. You're now starting to see the Hallmark ornaments and Hallmark. Oh God, Hallmark for that year they had night vision goggles for the Prep and Landing elves, and they had hats with ears. And to this day, I kick myself. I got the elves. In fact, our good friend Angela Ragno, whenever there was a Prep and Landing elf, because she and I have to tell that story. Well, no. Actually,
I'm dying to know, Jim.
okay. Prep and Landing is actually crucial to the the wonderful relationship I have to this day with Walt Disney Animation Studios. So, all right, here's how it happened. August 2009 is the very first D23 Expo, okay? And Angela and I go together to the Expo. And one of the things we go to is, again, this is August, and they're going to show months ahead of it airing on ABC. They're going to show this to the folks attending that event. And so Angela and I go, and we watch it, and the lights come up, and I turn to Angela and I say, that's the best thing I've seen Disney feature animation do in like 10 years. That was funny, it was fast and smartly written, well paced, and I don't understand that sitting behind me, it's the directors of the movie. All right. And you got to understand that at this point, I have kind of a reputation in the Disney online community as being that mean guy. All right, the guy who has friends inside of feature animation who tell when things are going bad, let me reach out to Jim Hill and he'll put it online. And so Kevin and Stevie go back to the studio, and it was like, Jim Hill likes this, you have to reach out to him. We have somebody who would champion this thing. And so Amy Astley, the head of the publicity for the studio, very kindly reaches out, invites me out to LA. I get to sit down with the filmmakers. I get to interview them. And again, I was very sincere. I thought this was wonderful. And it was just sort of like, man, this is great work. And the beauty part of it is because this is just them just being generous and sweet. This is not a bribe. It was after I had written the first couple of stories about Prep and Landing, these were going up on the Huffington Post back then. And so it was like telling people something special is headed this way. Keep an eye out for Prep and Landing. So one day, at the house, this giant box shows up, and it's like, what is this? And I open it up, and it's the plush. All right, the plushes that they had only made for the crew who made the movie. But here's the thing, Lauren. It's not just Lanny and Wayne and McGee.
Is it Thrasher?
Thrasher! I have a Thrasher!
No, you don't. No,
I
you
do.
don't.
I do. I have a Thrasher along with
I was just being funny.
No, and a Dasher and a Dancer. I tell you what, out ahead of this show, I will get photos and send them along too.
Oh,
now,
please do. That's
okay,
so awesome.
now for civilians, one of the other things you really do want to chase down if you're a Prep and Landing fan is along with when Naughty versus Nice came out in December of 11th, Disney Publishing, in collaboration with Marvel, did a Marvel's Adventure Superhero. In fact, it's Marvel Superheroes edition number 20, and you want to chase this down because it features the story Prep and Landing Mansion Impossible. And it's the idea that Wayne and Landy have gone to the Avengers mansion out ahead of Santa, and they're prepping that, and they're tripping over all of the Iron Man's mask and Captain America's shield, and trying to not run afoul of the Hulk. So now, okay, so you mentioned Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam, which of course is the projection show that's done at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Now, this started in 2016 and then got updated in 2018. And yeah, there was a ruckus last year. And it came on the back of the fact that Jollywood Nights was thrown together so quickly, and they really didn't have a whole lot of stuff to put on the table. And somebody decided that, okay, let's claw back Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam, and only make that a show that you can see if you've bought a ticket to this after-hours hard ticket event.
And my mother was personally offended, I must say.
And your mother was among tens of thousands. All right. And Disney learned the hard way not to do this. So for this year, they have corrected their error. Now, let's get to the big news. Okay. June of 2023. There was the lovely short, Once Upon a Studio, celebrating the 100 years of the existence of Disney feature animation.
It was the best.
It was. But there were people, when they were watching, it's like, wait a minute. Is that who I think it is? Is that Wayne and Lanny? What are they doing in there? Well, of course, every character that's ever been in a featurette or that sort of thing is supposed to be in this, but people thought that was significant because remember, we hadn't had a new Prep and Landing since 2011. And I will tell you, because I talked to Kevin and Stevie about that. It's like, well, you got other ideas? Yeah, we got other ideas. Yeah, we definitely want to do things. But of course, going back to what you were talking about at the top of the show today, I mean, Disney went from got to remember, 2013, suddenly there's Frozen, and the entire company pivots to making that into a franchise, which is why we get Olaf's Frozen Adventure in 2017, which, by the way, has my new favorite Christmas song that time of year.
Oh my gosh, so great!
Just I remember talking with Josh Gad about recording that. It's like that is the world's fastest patter song, and he nailed it. It's so funny. But yeah, it was just so Kevin and Stevie directed that, and it's like, oh well, I guess they're out of the Prep and Landing business. But no, they're not, because this past August at D23, we learned that there is a new Prep and Landing holiday special coming in 2025. And it's going to be called the Snowball Protocol. And all we know so far is that Wayne believes that he somehow really upset Santa Claus and he has to make things right, which involves invoking the Snowball Protocol. And we will find out more about that come 2025. But the beauty part, Lauren, especially for a Disney merch podcast, is we're going to get new Prep and Landing merch.
Yay! And I mean, it's kind of been pretty dry lately.
It has. Now, mind you, what's also especially interesting is there are Wayne and Lanny costumes, walk-around character costumes that have been created for the parks. In fact,
What?
yeah, if you watch the Disney holiday specials for, I want to say this would have been 2010 and 2011, they're actually featured they're among the characters you see in the parade that was on ABC. So they have them. They can be in the parks.
Well, listen, I think since Disney needs to make it up to their favorite fans, right, for taking Jingle Bell, Jingle Bam away last year, that they should just bring them out. They should just bring them out this year. Maybe specifically next week. Just saying.
Because who knows who might be in town next week? I would love to see a picture of you and Eric and the kids with Wayne and Lanny. Yeah, okay, yeah. You've got those costumes. Break them out.
I mean, you are kind of the biggest fan, right? I mean, you got Thrasher. So if you got a little influence, Jim, get a little nudge going. Appreciate it.
Well, it's worth noting that Kevin and Stevie are actually executive producing Snowball Protocol, so it'll have the same level of quality, good, strong writing. Oh, and by the way, just to sort of bring this thing full circle, remember that when Kevin Williams left, again, came up with the idea for Prep and Landing, but then had to go over and work as part of the folks who changed American Dog to Bolt, Kevin and Stevie worked in a tribute to him. So if you watch the original Prep and Landing, in the first 30 seconds of the show, you get to see Wayne and his partner prepping a house for Santa Claus's arrival, and suddenly a dog enters the room. And the dog is a repainted version of Bolt. It's the exact same dog. They just changed the color of the fur and that sort of thing. But this is their way to say, Chris is still a part of this. We wouldn't have had this idea if you hadn't come up with it and brought it to John Lasseter. So we wanted to acknowledge that you were a part of this. So that's Bolt in the movie right there, to acknowledge that Chris got this whole this snowball rolling. Okay, so,
I love it, and
okay.
I gotta love a Disney Easter egg, right?
There you go. There we go.
But okay, Jim. Well, on that note, I think it's just about time we close up shop for today. But if you want to stay up to date with everything happening across the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, just make sure you're following along on Facebook, Instagram, X, social media, wherever you're at. We are most likely there. We post all the latest updates and news from all the shows, so you won't miss a thing.
Absolutely. But don't forget, if you've got questions or suggestions for future episodes of this podcast, I want that too. We would love to hear from you. So you can reach out to the both of us on social media or email us directly. I'm at jim@jimhillmedia.com and Lauren is at laurenhersey.com.
Yes, and I mean, we are working on our 2025 programming now, so let us know what you want to hear about. But thanks for listening today, everyone, and we will see you next time on I Want That Too.